Paul, who is in jail, chained to a guard 24/7, who has his pending death on the pen of some ruler, Nero. Paul, who has no natural reason at all to be telling them to rejoice, says to them, rejoice. And then he takes a step back, thinks about it again, and says, rejoice always. And again, I say rejoice. Because I think Paul had figured it out. If you look at it, Paul seems to have figured it out, because he realized that he did not get there on his own, and he could not control what happened to him. That his whole life was given to God, and that if God saw fit for him to die, Paul says in earlier parts of this particular book, he says, I don't care that you have me in jail and in prison and ready to kill me. He says, because if you kill me, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So if I live, for him I live, and through him I live. And so Paul says, you can't make me worry, because I'm in his hand. I am trusting in his sufficiency. So at the writing of this text, he is giving them a cure, if you will, a spiritual antibiotic, if you will, for worry. He says, if you, watch this now, don't want to be snagged in the clutches of anxiety and worry, here's what he says. He says, you've got to do three things. First of all, he says you've got to pray. Somebody say pray. It's hard to worry and pray at the same time. Because when you think about who you're praying to, you're praying to a God who has all power in his hand. You're praying to a God who has everything in his control. You're praying to omnipotent God, a God of all power, omniscient God, a God who knows everything, omnipresent God, a God who is not surprised by where you are in life. When you pray to that God, it's hard for you to worry when you put all of your worries in his, my God. Is there anybody in this place this morning, you've learned how to get rid of your worry? Here is what Peter says, casting all your anxieties on him, watch this, for he cares for you. So that when you learn, listen, when you learn who God is, I can tell some of us don't have a prayer life. Okay, let me do this. Let me do this by logic. If you have a prayer life, you really don't know who you're praying to. Because we're not praying to Buddha. We're not praying to Confucius. We're not praying to Muhammad. All of those men died and stayed dead. We're praying to God in the name of his son, who got up with all power. Oh, I feel like preaching, in his hand. So that when you think about it, listen, you can't pray and worry. Because when you really pray, it's hard to worry. That's why I know warriors are not really consistent prayers. You worried about, you got a job, but you worried, how long am I going to have a job? Now, did you hear the contradiction in that? I got a job, but I'm worrying about how long I'm going to have a job. Well, how about whoever gave you the job has the ability to give you enough? Can I talk to somebody who believes God and knows that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly but above, so that I don't have to worry? I'm going to leave the worry to somebody who don't have God. Because as long as I've got God, I'm going to put it in God's hand. So you got to understand, Paul's not worried about where his condition. He's, as a matter of fact, he's encouraging other people. He says pray. He's essentially saying pray for patience. Uh-oh. How you get that, Pastor? Because he's saying rejoice in the Lord. And again, I say rejoice, which intimates that my faith prepares me for what he has for me. See, to rejoice when I'm in struggle is an indicator that I've learned how to use my faith. So I've learned to let my faith work in my struggle. So I've learned to, instead of complaining and worrying, I've learned to praise in its place. So he says, rejoice in the Lord. Again, I say, so what Paul is saying is, when we who are believers don't worry, we let the Holy Spirit fill us full of joy. And here it is, the joy I have is a result of what I've been through. Wait a minute. You would think what I've been through should take my joy. No, because everything I've been through, I've seen God show up. So the more I've gone through, the more I learn how to have my... Y'all ain't helping Pastor today. So you can always tell people who are committed to prayer, because the more they go through, okay, God, here's another opportunity for you to show up in my life. I refuse to succumb to worry. I refuse to succumb to anxiety. I refuse to succumb to lack of faith. I am going to reach. Is there anybody in this house, you committed to letting the God of yours? Matter of fact, just practice. See, when you and I are committed to, then we don't have to walk around uptight. We just as calm as we know how to be. See, because when you are prayer, people look at you and know what you're going through, and you've got a peace in it. They don't understand how you can continue to thrive, not just survive, but thrive. They don't understand why you want to on a Thanksgiving weekend, like why you don't want to stay in the bed, and why you want to get up on an early Sunday morning and come to his house, because they don't understand why you got joy in your spirit, because you want to get to his house to tell him formally thank you. Now, I've been telling you informally all week long, but this is the place I meet you formally to say, Lord, because I should be out of my mind. I should be in an insane asylum. But I want to thank you that everything I've gone through, it's not destroyed me. It's... Who am I talking to up in here? Would you look at your neighbor for me? Help me preach. And say, neighbor, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it. And the world cannot take it away. Why don't you excuse me while I give God glory? Every day we wake up, we ought to just say thank you. I want to suggest to us that the cure for anxiety is prayer, petitioning, praise. It's hard to be anxious and worry when we're committed to those things. Give God praise.